Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where we come to transform ourselves and each other and the world. Let's take a moment to turn on our audio so we can hear one another's greetings.
Good morning.
This is Greg.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. Hi, Drew here. Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Everybody.
Amy, your audio's a little distorted this morning.
Amy.
Happy
Good
Sunday.
morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good to hear everyone.
Welcome back, Amy.
Yes, welcome back, Amy.
So great to see people's faces and greetings in the chat. Wonderful. You can see the order of service by following the link in the chat. And I have a couple other important pieces of information for you that I want to make sure you get. A very important update from the Hybrid Services Task Force. Given the surge in cases and the high rate of community transmission, we are postponing the return to in-person services. We are hopeful that with tight control, the new variants will be less of a threat in several weeks and that we will be able to resume in-person services in early October. Keep you posted. Now, isolation is a real threat, and I hope you will tend your mind and spirit by participating in small groups in person and making use of the opportunity to come meet with me as well. You can do that anytime by appointment, but I'll also be holding an open air, open house this Wednesday, 1 to 3 at UUCPA. We'll be physically 6 feet apart, but we'll be able to be heart to heart and face to face. So do drop by if you would be able to do that in that time. Also want you to note for this service, there's a link right there in the welcome and announcements section of your order of service to a very, very simple form, 2 questions for you to fill out if you have a question for me for later in the service. And there's a place there also for you to write a question you would like me to ask you sometime. I'll tell you more about that in a bit. But that link is right there, so if you have a question already, go right ahead. And now, let us begin our service. With our centering words each week, we draw on the many sources. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm skipping ahead. Before our centering words, let's light our chalice. If you have a chalice there with you, please light it along with me as we hear the words of Raquel Reyes. Luz del sol, to warm your days. Luz de luna, to illuminate your nights. Luz de estrella, to steer you through rough oceans. Esta luz, this chalice, is lit for you this day, that it and this community may be a source of light to guide you. Now let us have our centering words with which we begin each week in order to draw on many, many sources from our living tradition. Today's words are from the English writer Virginia Woolf, from her novel Orlando, and they are appropriately a question. Are we so made that we have to take death in small doses daily, or we could not go on with the business of living? As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, let us become centered and fully present in this place together. Now let's join in as Bruce, Jane, and Richard lead us in singing "Come Sing a Song with Me." We now turn our thoughts to the important events of our lives which we wish this community to share. If you have a joy or a sorrow you would like me to speak this morning, please send your joys and sorrows to joyconcern@uucpa.org or post them into the chat box provided by Zoom, and they will be shared aloud. I'd like to begin by voicing two sorrows that I'm quite sure are on many people's minds this week. One is grief for Haiti after its major earthquake, yet another disaster afflicting that country, and many hundreds already known to have perished. And the other is for the latest IPCC report and its grim news. Many of us, and altogether as a congregation, we are acting as we can to mitigate climate change. But it is very frightening and grieving to see how much needs to be done and how much disaster will likely still befall us. So let us hold each other gently and join our Green Sanctuary Committee in its work this afternoon and share what we are doing to make this world one that we will be proud and happy to leave to the next generation. So much in our hearts, on our minds today, so much in the world that requires our tender care. So let's take some time of a grateful and full silence in which to meditate or pray or whatever helps us to feel our connection among ourselves and out to the great world of creation to which we are also connected. Blessed be. Let's sing together as Bruce leads us in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our reading this morning is a collaborative poem called We Were Wondering by the 5th grade class of Deborah Cummins, a teacher at the Greenbrier School, Northbrook, Illinois. Why are rainy days called gloomy? Does rain fall because God cries when a young person dies for no reason at all? Why do flowers always bloom out and not in? Does winter always have to come before spring? How come people say the moon is made of cheese and not waffles, for example? When someone tickles you, why do you laugh? Why does anger feel like you are under a heavy weight? Why do things we don't know about scare us? Why do we make mistakes? Why did it take so long to discover the light bulb? Why are there choices that are complicated to some people and not hard to others? How come girls have long hair and boys don't? How come there are more girls than boys in the world? Why do you see the word men in writing every day and not women? Why do people have eyebrows? Why do we get taller when we get older? Why do dogs chase cats? Does every living thing have a way of communicating? Where does Jimmy Buffett get his songs? Why is a piece of paper not as valuable as a dollar bill, which is also a piece of paper? Why do cookies disappear fastest when you're not the one eating them? How come cake is served at parties? Why does everything have a name? Where does time come from? Are you in complete control of your life, or does fate just give you paths? Is there a limit to everything? Is anything perfect? Anyone? What happens if heaven gets too full? Will people get longer lives, or will heaven be expanded? How old is God? When God created the earth, did he want it to have so many problems? Do you have to eat and sleep in heaven? I am what I am. Am I anything more? Is life a play and the ending already made up? Deborah Cummins, who led her students in generating the questions that became that poem, explains how she began that segment of their school year. It was a Monday, she writes, and I related how I'd been to a weekend family gathering where a lot of small children were present. I'd forgotten, I told my fifth graders, how at a certain age, children ask so many questions. How many of them, I asked, had younger brothers and sisters? And did they ever notice how their siblings asked a lot of questions? In response, eyes rolled, heads nodded enthusiastically. Why do you think, I asked my students, that small children ask so many questions? To find out stuff, they said. They don't know anything. From across the classroom, they don't know any better. Yes, I admitted. It is a way of learning, of finding out about the world, but as we get older, I proposed, do you think we tend to ask fewer questions? Silence. Then some nods of heads, some yes. Why? We know everything, someone threw out, getting the laughs. We're supposed to know. What? You're supposed to know everything? No, but lots of stuff. We're afraid to ask, from the back of the room. In the corner, we don't want to look dumb. Amy back on the page to notice, it sets in early, doesn't it? 5th grade. So Ms. Cummins goes on, speaking to her students, oh, so if we're going to ask questions, it's better to keep them to ourselves. Is it dumb then to wonder aloud in the cafeteria line what you're going to have for lunch, nachos or burgers? The students say, yeah. Is it dumb to wonder aloud what you're doing on this planet? What you might do with your life that's different than the person sitting next to you? Different than anything anyone's ever done before? Amy again, I love teachers who encourage their students to keep asking questions. I hope that we can be that kind of teacher to each other, assuring each other here at UUCPA that it's not dumb to wonder aloud, to keep asking more and more questions, not fewer and fewer as we get older and supposedly wiser. I love question box services like today's because I love questions. And I love that you ask questions, even when you're a little bit afraid. So, even though I'm trying my best to come up with answers today, I also have many questions. I wonder what I will regret doing or not doing when I come to the end of my life. I wonder whether it's better to be a pacifist or to accept that sometimes violence is necessary. I wonder what really helps people to change, starting with myself. One question that's never far from my mind when I'm with you is, what question would this person like me to ask them? So, I want to issue a 2-part invitation The first part is to ask me any question you would like to hear thoughts about right now from this pulpit. I'll answer as many questions as I can with whatever thoughts I can summon up right now. Oftentimes, the questions in these services steep for months or years and result in a sermon later. The second part is to tell me what you'd like me to ask you sometime, maybe when we're speaking one-on-one. To keep it all confidential, if you wish, I've made a form. So just click on the link that's in your order of service and in your chat and write your questions. You can also send me a private message on Zoom. Open the chat, click to the 2 down at the bottom and choose my name. That way you'll just be writing to me and not to everybody. Just, if you do that, let me know whether what you're writing is the question you want me to answer right now or the question you want me to ask you sometime. What wonderful questions have come in. And I want, of course, for you to be able to listen to other people's questions and the answers, but if you think of something, you can still send it along using that form. I think I see 2 questions that go together. That's probably not the first time that will happen, but diving in. Someone has asked, how has creating remote services changed the way that you think about worship? Mostly no, not in the big ways. For me, worship is about trying to discern what are the spiritual needs of this community, of people individually and our wider community, and to create a music and words and a whole container that will hold those concerns and that will address them. And that's really pretty much the same, however human beings communicate, is what I'm finding. On the other hand, one of the things that sort of, just kind of came clear over my vacation, the way quiet time can help the silt kind of settle down to the bottom. And I came back thinking, Edith Eddy suggested months ago, thank you, and I'm sorry, Edie, that maybe we could encourage people to turn their video on during the service. We had discouraged it at the beginning, and there were various technical reasons for that, and there were logistical reasons why we just said, well, we can't address that suggestion right now, but I'm going to readdress it with the worship tech crew and see if there's any reason nowadays not to encourage that. Just as a way of creating more community, which is the other question that I have here. In what ways can I meaningfully connect with this community when not able to physically meet? Obviously you're here at the service. I hope that's one meaningful way. But as Edie pointed out when she asked, could we do this? Seeing each other's faces live, not just a picture, not just a name on a black screen, can really help us remember that we are a gathered community and there are other people out there having this experience right now. It's a small thing we can do, but I want to do my piece to make that happen. Other ways to meaningfully connect. Well, I am sorry that they all involve Zoom. Almost all involve Zoom, because I know for some people that's really difficult. But here you are again, so I guess I'm speaking to somebody who doesn't find it too difficult. Do come to small group meetings that are meeting via Zoom. And more, and despite the surge, we have opportunities to meet in small groups. They can do that much more easily than a great big main hall full of people, and still be safe. So do come if you can. But if none of that is working for you, please call on me or Dan and just let's talk this out and try to meet the need that's specific to you, because I realize that it's just so hard how isolated we can be right now when we most need to not be. And there is this sort of feeling like it just keeps going. So we're trying to address it in as many ways as we can. Okay, how can we know when we believe in something? Wow. I think it comes down to self-knowledge, that to know what we really think, to know what we believe, involves an ability to be still with ourselves and listen to what's going on in ourselves. And sometimes that's hard because there's so many other voices. Sometimes we've really been trained, encouraged, badgered out of understanding our own selves, what we think, what we feel, and what we believe. So I think a lot of us, maybe all of us, need practice in knowing ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that church should be for. It's why people meditate, it's why people pray, it's why people do art or go for long walks or do a team sport or whatever. I mean, people have ways where they feel like, oh, I'm most myself at this time. I'm most in touch with who I am at this time. I think when we have enough of that in our lives, then the piece about what we believe comes clear. What are some ways our congregation can support efforts to change our country and our community to be more just and equitable for people of all races, ethnicities, gender identities, economic classes, and other forms of oppression? Wow, I love that question, and there are so many ways we are doing it already. There are always so many more ways we can be doing it. I wasn't joking when I said go to the Green Sanctuary Committee meeting if you would like to help green our world, because that is, of course, very much a justice issue, and that's one of the things that our committee will be working on. It's about the whole planet and all the beings on the planet, but it's also about how unequitably people are struck by environmental problems. We have folks engaging in Beloved Conversations starting in a couple weeks. This is the time to sign up. So if you are interested in being part of Beloved Conversations virtual, it comes to us glowingly recommended by Linda Hannigan and Brooke Bashara. Fire me follow-up questions about any of these things if you wish, or them. We have Dismantling White Supremacy group. We have a Welcoming Congregation Renewal Group. These are ways we're working on it right now. We have the Safe Parking Program, and that we are trying to launch. There's going to be a question about that I see coming down the list here. And the programs that we do right here, the service programs, Hotel de Zinc and Heart and Home. So many ways to work on this. There's a lot of people working against voter suppression, huge issue that applies to all those things. I think getting involved together is really great because it can be discouraging work. and we need to help each other along. What's a nice Jewish girl like you doing in a church like this? Two-part answer. One, this nice Jewish girl was raised by devoted Jewish parents to ask questions and to follow where her questions led. I sometimes wonder, I think it might have made them a little sad that it led me to question my way out of conservative Judaism in which I was raised, but they've always been incredibly supportive, and I think it's because this is how they raised me to be. And the other part, in a church like this, I'm just so glad to be in a church that welcomes people with their various religious backgrounds and paths. My path isn't particularly Jewish anymore, but I know it's deep in, Judaism is deep in me, and that feels completely welcome here. Even with the word church, which I know for some people that feels really like that's a barrier if they grew up in a religion that doesn't call their gathering place a church. I made my peace with that personally, but I realize that can be hard for people. So in a congregation like this, if that works better for you, having grown up Jewish or Muslim or Hindu or something else. Why is there air? Somebody here must be able to answer that better than I can. You might be joking, but I think it's a great example of a backwards question. There's reasons why there's air on certain planets, right? Okay. But the reason that we are here to ask that question is because there is the kind of air here that there is. That's why we are beings that can breathe a mostly nitrogen mix with enough oxygen for us to survive, right? As opposed to, say, methane that is the air on some planets. So why are there people here? Because there is people kind of air. Okay, this first question sounds a little rhetorical, but why should we still have a relationship with Stevenson House? And I want to answer that as a real question. So the person goes on to ask about, how we help them get started, which is true. We have a long history together. Sometimes our relationship is a little tense, like getting everybody to wear their masks, please, when you're on our campus. And now there's this tension about most of us here at church wanting a safe parking program hosted by our congregation, and Stevenson House is opposed to that. But the question is, why should we still have a relationship? And we're going to still have a relationship because we're neighbors, we want to be good neighbors to each other, and we're not always going to see eye to eye. So Christopher Kahn, who's leading the Safe Parking Program, and Brooke Bashara, our president, and I were just touching base about that this week, affirming that we will continue to be in conversation with them, not just at city council meetings, because we are neighbors. And even when we are really in conflict about something, we want to work together as much as we can on the things that we can work together about. So we will, like in any relationship, it's important for us, one of the parties, to do what we believe is right, to do what we believe is safe, and not to sacrifice any of our integrity because the other party wants us to do something different, but to still keep as good a relationship as is possible within those strictures. So let us carry on. And of course, we have many people who are members of both those communities, and I want that to work out well for you all who are here from Stevenson House. I'm sorry if that's feeling like a difficult time for you. What do you do when you feel guilty for being fortunate? I remember an image that has come to me many, many times that really struck me when I was young and getting radicalized in the best way. Was the idea that it's not Jesus. It's not what Jesus says about the coat. It's a saint somewhere or something about, like, if you see somebody if you have a coat and somebody doesn't have one, then you are stealing from them. I don't actually most of the time think that being fortunate is a reason to be guilty. It's fortune, it's luck, right? But here we are, adults, we can make decisions about what we do with our good fortune. And And I do, in my more radical moments, think, well, I should be evening things out so much that, not that I am shivering with cold, but that I have just enough. And so all that is a preface to saying, I do not live what I am about to say. I work on it. I think that you try to reduce the gap between your good fortune and others' ill fortune as much as possible, because we all just got a roll of the dice in how we landed, but after that, there's something we can do. We can work hard, which sometimes can make your luck turn, but as we know, you can work really hard and still be scraping along. And I don't think it's just about giving things away. I think we focus too much on individual solutions. By all means do, and I am very aware at this moment that I spent a lot of money on a vacation. I could have given that all away. I didn't need to go across the country in an airplane with my family. So these are all compromises, and they're all imperfect all the time. But I think feeling like we do what we can to create a more just system, and really digging deep to what that would mean, is the best response to guilt. We have a system that really more and more helps the fortunate become richer and richer, and the unfortunate fall into hopeless poverty. It does not have to be that way. It hasn't always been that way. See the above question about dealing with economic injustices? I would love to have a group about working on economic injustice, but we have enough groups, but a lens to put on all the things that we're doing is class. So my personal answers, I don't usually give out of guilt, but I try to give away a good chunk, more than my financial advisor thinks I should, of my income and wealth. That feels like the least I can do. How do you know when the appropriate answer is not an answer, but instead a question? I should say something witty in the form of a question right now, but I can't think of anything. See that very early answer about how do we know when we know something? How do we know when we're being honest? So I will say about almost all my answers right now, they all have a great big asterisk on them, and what says at the bottom of the page is, or maybe not. I mean, I don't know. There's a question in all of these answers. Seems like you might have something specific in mind, so do ask me if you can. How is it that some Christians believe the God of Noah is going to save our planet again? The God of Noah didn't do such a great job the first time, right? We'll save the planet by drowning almost everybody. I do not know. I honestly don't know how people can believe the things they do. I guess we all have some beliefs that are completely irrational. I know that. We all do things that are just to comfort ourselves. Every single one of us. And I'm not saying Christianity as a whole is irrational. I'm just saying that, in this context of believing the planet is going down the tubes and we should just pray to God, God will fix it. I think God has sent us lots of ways to fix it. If there's a God out there, God has given us the IPCC and good brains and the will if we choose to use it. So I'm stumped. How to make my older years meaningful when I don't have a lot of energy? Yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know what has made your life feel meaningful at times when you had less energy. This is maybe an easier answer for people whose most meaningful, meaning-making activities don't take nearly as much energy, like reading and conversing, for example. I know we can reach a point where even that takes too much energy, but it takes a lot less energy than, say, playing on your soccer team. So I think thinking about what are the things, there are just some things that maybe that were a great source of meaning before that have to go by the wayside, and that grieving that is important, and focus on the things that you can still do that that do help you feel meaning in your life. What's something I learned during my break? The place I went in Maine is one of the most beautiful spots on the planet. I'm afraid to say the name because, maybe everybody will go there. No, I'm just joking. Harpswell, Maine. I also learned a cure for homesickness. It's not the only time I've learned this, but I needed to learn it again. Going back to Vermont, where I have not lived for 18 years, but which I still miss now and then, spending a few days there really helped me lay that to rest. It's very beautiful. I loved being there. I look forward to going again, and thinking about it doesn't give me the ache that it gave me in the past. I hope that lasts. I've learned that before when I went to places that I missed so terribly that it hurt inside, that just to see them once again allowed me to let it go somehow. Somebody asked, how are you? No, really, how are you? Thank you. I really, really am doing great. Yes, I am among the fortunate. I am very blessed. If I can embarrass my daughter, I was reminded of that just this week when I said something about how great it is to be with her, and somebody said, wow, you're lucky. The 13 through 15 years were not like that for me and my kids, and I thought, yeah, I'm really lucky. And it's okay, Indigo, if you want to melt down sometime and be impossible, that's allowed too. Yeah, I just realizing that even the things in my life that are supposed to be difficult are really quite blessed right now. Let's see. To keep democracy alive, we may need to reach out to voters continuously, not just right before elections. Do you agree? Yes. If so, can the UU Church help with that? Yes. Yes. I've been writing postcards. Right to, I think Elsa is still doing this, Elsa Schaefer. Sorry if I'm steering people wrong. Linda Hannigan sends out postcards to voters, partly about voting, but also about other kinds of organizing. And I love the ones that work, that get their information from Reclaim Our Vote, because that is a people of color-led organization, and I feel like that's where a white person, need to be taking my cue. They're doing great stuff. I sent a zillion postcards to people to go to their rural electrification board meeting, which is not kidding. This is important, but it's all about helping people to feel their power all the time and responding to what those local communities say they need from us. So, please, yes. We had a great time all writing postcards together one day about a year and a half ago, shortly before the shutdown. So I hope we'll do that again. But we can do it home, meeting by Zoom too. How do you take care of yourself amid all your responsibilities? Well, sporadically. I'm not always so good about it, but the things I do best are I get enough sleep, I read for pleasure. I talk to a lot of colleagues, and I realize that people feel like they never read for pleasure, and I think, oh, I totally indulge myself about that. It's just non-negotiable for me. So good. Exercise, don't like that part, but I'm trying to be better about it. And have time with my family. That's the most important thing. And for much more about this, see next week's service. I mean, that's not just about me, about how all of us can take care of ourselves amid our responsibilities. But thank you. COVID really brings home to me, I don't have it so bad. I am not like one of our community ministers, Melissa Thompson, a chaplain in a hospital. She does palliative care. It is nonstop dealing with COVID. I know Jen Dillinger, who's also a chaplain at a different hospital, would say something very similar, although palliative care is not particularly her specialty. People in medical fields and other people related directly to COVID have been out straight for a year and a half. I feel very lucky in comparison. What does your word worship mean to you use? Do you use mean one thing by any such thing? Who or what do we worship? Well, for some people it doesn't mean anything. And I mean, we've had worship associates who say, could I call myself the service associate? That word means nothing to me. Call yourself what you like. We call it worship. We interpret that very broadly. For me, there are things that I worship. There are things that I want to take a moment to remember and revere. And I hope that our services are a part of that. But that's not all that services are. Even for other traditions which have a much clearer theology of a particular God to whom you speak, for example. That's not all that they do in their services. It's not all about praising that God. It's about remembering what's important to us. It's about realigning ourselves with our values. It's about summoning the will to follow those values. It's about staying connected, especially when we need each other's support. All of that is what we do in worship. But boy, wouldn't that make a great service? What does the word worship mean to you? And get a whole bunch of people speaking on that, and we'd have 6 different answers, right? Including some people saying nothing. I don't like the word. It's not something I do. I struggle with the word perfect. Does the relative use of this word translate to all being perfect in the end or nothing? Should it be a word to use only in reference to personal outlook and defined so in dictionaries, adding to the existing definition of without flaw or defect? I'm not sure what you mean by perfect personal outlook, but I say this as a perfectionist. I know there is no such thing as perfection. I mean, that's right. Somebody asked, one of the kids' questions in the poem was about perfection, right? Nothing is perfect in terms of having no flaw, no defect, except in a very, narrow sense. I struggle with it too. All in all, I think we should use it less. I loved being introduced to the expression, instead of practice makes perfect, practice makes progress. That just, I feel myself breathing more deeply just hearing that shift. Perfection is not a goal that I feel I can aim for. For a denomination that does not embrace the word Christian, how do we take back the word from those who use it to support very non-Christian beliefs? Boy, that is so where we get stuck so often, isn't it? And I wish we embraced the word Christian better as a denomination. I mean, not that we are a Christian denomination. We're not. We are multi-religious. Some of us are Christian, some of us are not. Those who say they're Christian mean many different things by that, of course. But I think it is important to take the word back. It's a beautiful and honorable tradition with so much beauty in it, and it is the path of many of our folks here at UUCPA and in the wider UU world. I guess I try to take a historical perspective. Probably people have always been doing this, right? People have always been using the same religious labels that we use to mean the exact opposite, to use things that we are against, to use things that we feel are downright wrong and evil. And I think we just have to keep saying, no, that's not what I think it means. To me, Christianity means this. And to just say it. And you can quote all the people who support your view, For me, it would be Jesus and Dorothy Day and Martin Luther King. And I say that's what, now I can't say what Christianity is, I'm not the final authority on it, but to say over and over again, these are the things that Christianity means to me, these are the people I see being good Christians, those are the people I want to emulate, even though I'm not even a Christian, those are people I admire, and I say, they make me think Christianity is a good and a blessing to the world. I think we just have to keep doing it boldly. And say it to people. Oftentimes we have to say it to the people who are kind of in our camp, right? People come to church and they're like, don't use religious language that sounds like Christian because, and they have these, understandable, horrific thoughts about the likes of Pat Robertson, you know? I'm so out of date. There were more worse people more recently. And I get it, and I have to say, yeah, he's not the whole picture. And, you know, everything's like that, including Unitarian Universalism. There's plenty of UUs I'm not proud to be associated with in our history. Not too many nowadays, but sometimes. And it's important to say, to me, this is what our tradition tells me to do. Otherwise, they'll just grab it. They'll claim it, and they'll claim it in the eyes of other people, and that will never stop. And everybody struggles with this, if they're honest. So let's claim the beauty of our traditions for ourselves and our world, because it needs it. It needs them. Wow, I actually answered all those questions, but I'm running a little late. Not too late, because we did. We just have a couple more things that we want to do together, but one of them is to sing. So thank you, everybody, for your questions. I'll keep checking that form for just a couple more days before I take it down, and of course, I'm going to follow up on the questions you asked me to ask you. So if you think of other things, do send them to me that way. And of course, questions. As Ms. Cummins told her students, they are always welcome. They're always needed. So let's sing. For all that is our life, Bruce will lead us, and let us sing, knowing we are singing together, though far apart.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
I have the green light from the worship tech crew to let's try it right now. If you wish to be seen, if you are in a state to be seen right now, go ahead and put your audio on a little early, your video on right now until the end of the service. And we can see each other's smiling faces. Beginning now with our chalice extinguishing. These words come from John Brigham. Go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know. It is a great gift to be able to be seekers together. Until we meet again, happy seeking. Please do stay after the benediction for our virtual coffee time. You'll be invited to small group conversations in our breakout rooms, or you can stay here in the main room with me to discuss the service. You should be able to move between breakout rooms on your own. I know that doesn't always work for people, but if not, you can come back to the main room and Deborah will reassign you. We'll have the rooms open for about half an hour. So now please unmute yourself. If you have not turned on your video yet, we'd love it if you could do that, and we'll touch hands virtually, touch our hands to the edges of our screens while we say our benediction together. Go out into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Rejoice in beauty. Speak love with word and deed. Honor all beings.